Hello, today's lesson is on family history. Concept 3, family history. This is an ASL2 lesson for Mission 3A. All right, telling about family history is our Concept 3 lesson. Your Cornell notes for this go on page 45R. The discussion day is on Thursday, December 6th, and this again is part of Mission 3A. Let's get started. Telling about family history. In telling about generations of a family in ASL, the three language tools are used to keep the information clear and easy to follow. Possessive pronouns, listing, and contrastive structure. Now, two of them you should have already learned about in ASL1 and part of ASL2, but we are going to go over all three of them. Possessive pronouns. It's a grammar feature that shows what belongs to or is referring to nouns. For example, her, his, my, or their. Those are all possessive pronouns. In ASL, they reflect an imaginary tree. So when you're telling a story about family history and you're explaining about everybody in the family, you should set it up as though it is part of a family tree. And that's where you're going to put your reference points for each person in the family tree that you're discussing or telling about. Second part is listing. You use the fingers on your weak hand to represent one generation of children or siblings. Then you point to the finger when referring to that specific family member. So instead of having to say everybody's name sign it over and over again, you can just point to the finger where you refer to them. Don't use the same fingers to refer to different generations or different sides of the family at the same time. They can get confusing. So if you set up your aunt as in your index finger on your hand, and then later on you use your uncle and the index finger of your hand, when you refer to that index finger, it's unclear as who you're talking about, the aunt or the uncle. So it can be confusing when you do too much listing. Let's look at some examples. You see how the listing is done? So now whenever I am referring to my mom's kids or my dad's kids, instead of having to finger spell their names or do their name signs over and over again, I just have to point to the hands. And because the listing on the first one is 3, the listing on the second one is 2, it's easy to differentiate by putting out the 3 hand and pointing to the index finger that is Kim, as opposed to putting up the 2 hand and pointing to the index finger, and that is Joey. All right, the last one is contrastive structure. That's kind of new to you guys. Contrastive structure in ASL is placing nouns and reference points in opposite spaces and using those spaces to refer to them, usually in compare and contrast. So this is important, specifically when you look at the word opposite. So you're contrasting something, so you have to make sure that they're not close together, so it's easier to see visually who you were referring to when you're signing. Signers refer, in telling about family history, to one side of the family on their left, and then the other side of the family on their right. And you're going to see some examples on contrastive structure. First example. Second example. Okay. Discussion day on this concept 3 is Thursday, December 6th. Please come to class with your Cornell notes on 45R already done and your questions on 45L. Don't forget to complete your online WISC. And the bell work for that day will be list a family tree using the family tree graphic. It can be your family or someone else's. First names only. This concludes our lesson.